I personally am not at all looking to go to a vote today on this contract.
It's pretty normal for this committee to vote on this action, to pass these and to serve. I mean, that's kind of our function when we're not in session, is to ratify these contracts and to, pass them into law. Just I question that you're using this committee as a different sort of tool than it's been historically used. And certainly you're chair and you're entitled to do what you want. You've got the votes 6-4. You can move as you like to move, and I respect that. I understand elections have consequences, but so what would be your game plan then? Not to finish today and just drag it out to 30 days, or just do you want this to come up in special session to have the legislators actually pass it, or do you want to have it go to next year? I know you think you'd want to do it now because you could have a party in this, and next year I don't think you'll be in office here, so I just want to give you a chance to play.
Well, you're very astute that I didn't run for the Senate again. And then we're going to take a break because each and every one of us will be going back into our districts, and by then the citizens will know what is in the contract, and I would like to hear from them once they hear what's in the contract.
This is important for me, and this is one of the reasons why I really appreciate Chairman Parry's decision to have this hearing today to get the information, because I want to make sure we're treating people fairly, and we want to compensate them for the work that they're doing. But we have
Excuse me, folks, don't make me clear the room.
Mr. Chair, that's an inappropriate threat. I think
No, it's not. Representative Wakeler, excuse me, I'm the chair. And at the beginning I said I would not put up with any of that. Laughing, snickering, any of it. There's no place here.
You said clapping and
No.
cheering and groaning or something like that. I think if somebody's funny on the committee and people laugh, I mean, that's a human reaction.
I didn't believe Representative Downey was being funny. I believe he was asking.
Doesn't mean it wasn't yours.
Excuse me.
Mr. Chair, I don't think the taxpayers think Mr. Duffy was being funny either, and there are not a lot of them in the room today.
Chair, Senator Benson, everybody in this room is a taxpayer.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, to the people in the room. I understand they're taxpayers, but there are a lot more people who have a stake in this game, who are laughing.
Mr. Chair, if I could just continue. Some cases, some companies at this point, especially with Obamacare coming now, are talking about getting rid of their health insurance for their employees.
Mr. Chair,
Representative Lilly.
is that really necessary?
Over, as I mentioned, in the private sector, we have seen actual total compensation decreases in many of our businesses out there. Has state government employees, have they taken actual decrease, total compensation decreases over any of the last decades that you can recall?
Representative Subcommittee asked if there had ever been a compensation decrease, and the simple answer is yes, there was in this biennium. When state employees lost $65 million when the state government was shut down. And even under Representative Downey's math, a $59 million increase if we had approved this contract would still be $6 million less than what they lost during the shutdown. And it's Representative Subcommittee and Mr. Chair, I feel like you are not showing proper respect to the people in the room, especially your comment about paying people who don't work. It certainly wasn't their fault that government was shut down, and there were certainly plenty of legislators who got paid for not working during that time. And Mr. Chair, if this was a committee hearing to discuss business taxation and the room were filled with businesses, I don't think that you would be making threats at the outset of the hearing to tell them that if they made any untoward noise, including laughing, that they would have to be ejected from the room. I think that you are not treating people with respect. And I would just like to take a moment to welcome all of you.
Representative Wakeler, excuse me. I have said that to every committee meeting as a chairman before I have started. And I will continue to do that. This is no disrespect for anyone that comes before my committee. They need to know my ground rules as the chairman. Are you clear on that, Representative Winkler?
Mr. Chair, you threatened to clear the room when the audience laughed.
Exactly, and I will, if it gets ruly again or out of control, I will adjourn and, or take a recess and have the room cleared. That's my rules for my committee.
Mr. Chair,
When you run a committee, Representative Winkler, you can have your rules, but until you do, we'll live by my rules in this committee.
Mr. Chair, and to the members of the audience, I'd like to welcome you to the building that you pay for, and to have to come to the room and have an opportunity to speak and hear about an issue that directly affects your lives. And I'd like to thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the people of the state. And I'd also like to thank you for the work that you do in implementing all of the policy decisions that we so gloriously make here at the legislature. So thank you for coming. Mr. Be careful. Institute at Cornell University, I'm not sure what ILR stands for, Public Labor Relations. If you look, very simple chart, if you look at the last 3 years, every single year private sector total compensation has increased more than public sector total compensation. Public employees, state employees, the last 2 years have received no raise.
Oh, you keep running this meeting, you know, Mr. Representative Benson had a question, then you would kind of pile on with your own little question. Now Representative Winkler had a question, and you kind of editorialize. You know, is that how you work it in the Senate? I don't think chairs in the House do that. Is that kind of is that allowed in the Senate?
When your chair it is.
So all's good and fair and love and war in the Senate.
I guess that's what it is.
It's probably a blessing you're down to your last
We're
three meetings. I figure you'll note this for 3 days of review forever.
We'll take a 10-minute recess.
Mr. Chair, Representative Benson, I don't think we looked at it that way. We've heard consistent messages from you this round about your concern about the amount of money that employees pay towards their own health care. And you have a contract in front of you that does shift some of those costs to them. We also, on a separate plane, need to address the wage issue for all employees, and those are sometimes are separate concerns given the zeros that have been given in the last several rounds. So
I don't know what we're talking about here today. You've got a very, very modest 2% increase, and the way I see it, it's only for 6 months. What are we doing here? And if you don't make the tier jump, the cost of that gallon of milk or gasoline is the same for the person that doesn't get that jump. I think we should ratify this thing and go home, and again, it's already budgeted for. I don't know why we're here.
Minnesota has a shortage of IT talent right now, and I can't imagine that the state isn't impacted by that. And I know you talked about adjusting to market, but we need fundamental change in direction going forward so that those very talented, hardworking people get their just reward for doing the work, for finding savings, for making our state programs run better. I don't think a time of service and steps program is what most people are going to be dealing with in the future. And I think a lot of our state employees go to work every day and say, you know what, I have good ideas. I'd like to be rewarded.
So I guess I'm almost inclined to, I think we should not recess, but adjourn the committee and not give that huge 2% increase for the next 6 months.
I believe Representative, I think after having a hearing today and seeing just the benefits of the contract with the state and its modest nature, and Senator Benson and Senator Daley, I agree with you. I think that if we worked together and actually sat down at the table and worked with labor, we could probably find ways of, Representative Downey, you're talking about this too, of building more pay for performance, recognizing value better. I think we can find lots of ways to do that, but I don't think we're going to do that by holding up this contract. I don't think that's going to get us anywhere.
So with that, It's my intent to adjourn and reconvene back on the 23rd, the day before the special session, at 8:30, and we will take an up or down vote. But in the meantime, I fully expect all the committee members to make sure that they have the other questions answered. And but that would be my intent, 23rd at 8:30. With that, we are adjourned.
You know what, I could tell that, I let the sparring go maybe a little bit too long between the representatives and all, and I just felt it was time just to slow it down. And the best way to do that is to call a recess, let everyone just cool down, grab their thoughts again, and then you can see after that, we move forward just like it should.
Senator, there's a lot going on between now and the 23rd, and you talk about wanting to have some time to get some more information. How big of a priority is this contract going to be in these next couple of weeks with everything else that you have going on right now?
Well, I think for myself and the committee, we want to get it done. But you know what? We have talked about transparency for the 2 sessions I've been around. I mean, we want the people to know, the citizens to know what's in the contract. Because you know how it is when you sit around coffee tables. All you're going to hear is that, oh, some got 4.76% increases, and this person doesn't pay anything on health insurance. Well, today we found out, that they pay 85% or 15% of the dependents coverage. Well, people need to know that so that all of these rumors and stuff floating around out there, we can say no, this is what is actually in the contract. And I think by doing this and keeping it open, I think the citizens of the state can better understand what we have to go through to make those decisions.
I think that's a good point, too. The citizens of Minnesota, for instance, know that the taxpayers pay 100% of public employees' health care coverage if they got single coverage. Most people don't know that. 100% of the cost of the premium of single coverage health insurance for state employees is paid by the taxpayers. No one else has that deal out there in the private sector, and that's what I'm hearing from folks. So I'm curious to hear what their response is after they hear some of these details. So those are good points.
But isn't it true that most single coverage and employee group plans are nominal, if not free, in large employee groups? I mean, you pay when you have a family, and you usually don't pay a whole lot when you're a single. Isn't that true?
Well, I think it varies across the board in the private sector. Yeah. Many private employees don't even carry health care coverage for the employees, so it's 100% employee coverage in that situation. And I think you've got everything in between. I've heard anywhere from 25 to 30 to 50% of the premium paid by the individual in the private sector if they offer it.
I gotta say this, I've been doing this for 40 years. I had the opportunity to speak before legislative bodies in Congress. I have never seen the contempt that existed at this table this morning from Senator Parry, the whole extreme group. I'm going to stop right there because I couldn't believe what I saw happen today. I think it's very important for people to start calling these folks out. And it's been said a couple of times. Every one of those Republican legislators sitting at that table today who were attacking public employees in their own inimitable way drew their salary during the shutdown. And let's just look at the numbers for Senator Parry. If you would annualize, for 5 months, he talks about how hard he works. He doesn't come close to the work that state workers do, that public employees do in this state, for the citizens of this state. If you annualize his earnings, you're talking about a man who would earn $103,000 with his expenses, with his per diem, and with his compensation. There isn't a state worker that we represent that earns $103,000, and I'm appalled to hear the nitpicking comments that they made. Let's talk about Representative Drazkowski. He's a little bit less. If you add the same numbers together on an annualized basis, he's pulling down $93,772.80. There are no state workers that we represent that are pulling down those kind of earnings. The other thing that I found just abysmal was a claim that the private sector is declining. We all know we've all had tough times. But a recent report from a national provider of compensation data, Culpeper Associates, was just released, and you heard Representative Winkler go through those numbers. The private sector is increasing total compensation. It's time to move off pettiness. It's time to get Parry and crew to recognize the work that state workers do and to ratify our contract and move on so we can move on providing services for the state of Minnesota. Thank you.